Hello and welcome to Firstpost Live, where we bring you the day's top 4 stories from across the world. I am Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the headlines. China says it will impose special port fees on US-linked ships from October the 14th. Beijing's move comes after Washington introduced similar charges on Chinese vessels earlier this year. India is to reopen its embassy in Kabul after 4 years as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar hosts Taliban's foreign minister in New Delhi. The two sides hold talks with a focus on growth and countering cross-border terrorism. Peru's Congress leader takes over as president as lawmakers impeach Dina Boluarte, ending her stint in office plagued by protests, corruption scandals and rampant crime. The European Union grills social media giants, including Snapchat and YouTube, demanding answers on how they are protecting children from online harm. This as the bloc mulls restricting social media access to minors. And Venezuela opposition leader Maria Corina Machado gets the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize for promoting democratic rights in the country. US President Donald Trump was snubbed for the award despite several high-profile nominations. We begin with the latest from West Asia. Israelis and Palestinians are awaiting the implementation of the Gaza peace deal, agreed upon in Egypt earlier this week. After approving Donald Trump's plan for a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release, Israel confirmed that the US president is headed to Jerusalem this Sunday. This will be Trump's first trip to the region since announcing the 20-point peace plan that led to the Gaza peace deal. The visit is expected to coincide with the release of Israeli hostages by Hamas, a moment Trump has called the end of the war in Gaza. Trump confirmed he will also address the Israeli parliament during his visit this weekend.
Well, they've asked me to speak at the Knesset, and I've agreed to. If they would like me to, I will do it. It's the first time a president has ever done that, so that makes it very interesting, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I will do it if they want me to. They have asked me to do it. Thank you.
The Gaza peace deal, hammered out in Egypt after days of closed-door talks, was celebrated in Israeli streets and across Gaza, where families have lived under bombardment for more than 2 years. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his government had approved the framework for the release of all hostages, the living and the dead. But the agreement came at a cost. Far-right Israeli ministers slammed it as an unbearable price, pointing to the thousands of Palestinian prisoners to be freed in return. But Netanyahu has defended the deal, saying Israel is about to achieve its central war goal, the release of Israeli hostages.
Momentous development in the last 2 years. We fought during these 2 years to achieve our war aims, and the central one of these war aims is to return the hostages, all of the hostages, the living and the dead. And we're about to achieve that goal. We couldn't have achieved it without the extraordinary help of President Trump and his team, Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner.
Amid the politics and celebrations, India weighed in too. Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke with both Trump and Netanyahu, congratulating them on what he called a historic step towards peace. PM Modi praised the deal for opening doors to humanitarian aid and hostage releases, adding that terrorism in any form is unacceptable anywhere in the world. But even as the world hailed the breakthrough, Gaza shook once again. A blast reported in the early hours of Friday sent a black plume of smoke over the ruins of Khan Yunis. Gaza's Hamas-run civil defense team reported several strikes in the south, a sobering reminder that approval and implementation of this peace deal could still be far. The agreement also sets the stage for a major humanitarian operation. The United Nations has unveiled a 60-day plan to rush food, water and medicine into the enclave, promising aid for 2 million people and temporary schools for 700,000 children. American officials say that a 200-strong US military team will also be stationed in the region to oversee and observe the truce. Egyptian, Qatari, Turkish and Emirati officers will join them in a joint control centre, a coalition meant to build confidence on both sides. For many Israelis, this week brought tears of relief. In Tel Aviv, crowds waved US and Israeli flags and held photos of hostages still in captivity. And for many Palestinians, it brought respite. In Gaza, where the Hamas-run health ministry says the death toll due to the war has surpassed 67,000, residents spoke of tears and joy as they hoped the deal might finally end Israeli bombing. Trump's Sunday visit to Jerusalem is being billed as a celebration of hope. But behind the diplomatic smiles linger deeper questions about reconstruction, about disarmament, and about whether this truce can hold. Moving on now to Ukraine, where Kyiv was plunged into darkness early on Friday after Russia launched one of its most intense air assaults in recent months. Ukrainian authorities said that the Russian strikes hit key energy facilities and civilian areas in the Ukrainian capital. The Ukrainian Air Force described it as a massive attack, one that cut off power, disrupted water supplies, and left the city reeling in the cold and dark. Fragments from downed drones also struck several parts of the city. After the attack, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that Russia launched more than 450 drones and 30 missiles overnight. He also called on allies, including the United States, to respond with concrete measures.
What's needed is not window dressing but decisive action from the United States, Europe, and the G7 in delivering air defense systems and enforcing sanctions.
Kyiv's mayor said that Russian forces had targeted critical infrastructure and that 9 people had been injured, with 5 of them taken to hospital. The left bank of the Dnipro River was hit the hardest, with several neighbourhoods losing both power and water. In the aftermath of the strikes, videos circulated online showing apartment buildings ablaze, their upper floors engulfed in flames, and firefighters battling with evacuation efforts. The Ukrainian energy minister said the strikes were part of a massive and deliberate effort by Russian forces to cripple Kyiv's energy grid. She added that teams are trying to assess and restore damage as soon as safety conditions allow, but that several key power substations had already gone offline. Ukraine put the entire country on alert on Friday amid fears of an incoming hypersonic Kinzhal missile, which is harder to detect and intercept. Russia renewed attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure in late September. The recent attacks mirror similar Russian bombing campaigns in the past 3 winters that left millions of Ukrainians without heat and power for long periods. In the southeastern region of Zaporizhia, Russia launched at least 7 overnight drone strikes. This killed at least 4 people, according to local officials. Local authorities also say that the attacks destroyed several homes and damaged a school building. President Volodymyr Zelensky, responding to the assault, said Moscow was attempting to create chaos and apply psychological pressure through the deliberate targeting of energy and transport networks. He warned that continued attacks could further strain Ukraine's gas infrastructure and force the country to increase energy imports as winter approaches.
Russia has chosen war. Russia is destroying the lives of our people and must be held accountable for this. Our long-range capabilities will increase. Russia imports petrol from various locations, Asia, China, and other countries, and in Europe, in particular from Belarus. This is one of the results of Putin's war. The country that is a gas station does not sell petrol, but imports it.
Well, Ukraine has also stepped up its drone and missile strikes on Russian territory, a tactic that Zelensky said was showing results and pushing up fuel prices in Russia. A Ukrainian hit on a power station in the Russian border region of Belgorod also caused power outages. Meanwhile, Moscow accused Ukraine on Thursday of rupturing a pipeline near the front line that once carried ammonia for export, claiming that it released toxic gas, an accusation that Kyiv has not yet addressed. Now in Kyiv, authorities have begun restoration work as air defence teams continue to monitor for new threats. As winter approaches and Russia intensifies its aerial campaign, Ukraine is now bracing for what comes next in the weeks ahead. Moving on, Taiwan has vowed to strengthen its air defence amid rising tensions with China. President Lai Ching-te used his National Day address to announce a new T-dome defence system, a multi-layered shield designed to counter what he called enemy threats. President Lai said the T-dome would combine both local and foreign technology to build a strong, layered air defence network. He said the project aims to detect and stop drones, rockets, missiles and aircraft before they reach Taiwan, creating what he called a safety net for the country.
The increase in defense spending has a purpose. We aim to achieve three major goals. First, accelerate our building of the T-dome, establish a rigorous air defense system in Taiwan with multi-layered defense, high-level detection, and effective interception, and weave a safety net for Taiwan to protect the lives and property of citizens. Second, strengthen the integration of high-tech and AI technologies to build a smart defense combat system, enhancing the deterrent power of our asymmetric strategy.
Lai added that Taiwan would raise its defence budget by the end of the year and invest more in artificial intelligence and modern military technology. He said these measures were aimed at maintaining peace through strength and deterring attacks. Tensions with China have grown as Beijing continues to claim Taiwan as part of its territory. Lai urged China to give up the use of force or threats across the Taiwan Strait, warning that such pressure only increases regional instability. Earlier this week, in an interview with a conservative US radio show, Lai said US President Donald Trump should receive the Nobel Peace Prize if he could persuade Chinese President Xi Jinping to abandon the use of force against Taiwan. In response, China's government issued a strong statement saying Lai was quote-unquote prostituting himself to foreigners to gain favour and that his schemes are doomed to fail. Beijing continues to label Lai as a separatist and has intensified military pressure around the island in recent months. The United States has urged Taiwan to boost its defences amid fears of a Chinese invasion. Yet new US tariffs and uncertainty over President Donald Trump's willingness to defend the island have further tested America's relationship with the country. Lai's speech came after a tough 17 months for his government. He has faced political setbacks at home, including a failed attempt to regain control of Parliament, which left his Democratic Progressive Party weakened. Lai, a firm defender of Taiwan's sovereignty and a target of criticism from Beijing, pledged to raise defence spending to more than 3% of GDP next year and 5% by 2030. As tensions rise in the Taiwan Straits, President Lai's plan and his remarks on Trump and China send a very clear message that Taiwan is determined to protect its people and stand firm against growing pressure from Beijing. Our next story is from the Philippines. A powerful 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck off the southern Philippines on Friday morning, sending waves of panic across the region. According to the United States Geological Survey, the quake hit approximately 20 kilometers away from Manay in Davao Oriental. One person was killed when a wall collapsed in Manay City, and another died of a heart attack. Local residents in southern Philippines described terrifying shaking. One stated that it was very slow at first, and then it got stronger.
It started shaking. I thought it was going to be like a typical weak earthquake, and then suddenly it got stronger to the point where like the ceiling started to crumble a bit. So we had to like just hid in our chairs. Everyone was like screaming, and then It gone to the point where the whole panels, like in the Augie, it broke down, like literally fell down. I even, I think I inhaled some of the dust there from the panels.
Photographs from Davao City near the epicenter show chaotic scenes outside of hospitals as people sought safety. There have also been reports of ceiling collapses in multiple offices in the Davao City. At a school in a small town near Manay, teachers said several students suffered panic attacks and difficulty in breathing as the tremors hit. Power and communications were also disrupted in Davao Oriental, making damage assessments difficult.
Very big impact. Okay, this is like the strongest earthquake I've ever experienced in like my whole life. Jud, the last I experienced was like 6 years ago ata yung sa SM. This year was like the strongest earthquake ever.
The Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology warned of a destructive tsunami along the east coast. They urged residents to evacuate to higher ground or move further inland. The quake also triggered tsunami warnings in the neighbouring Indonesia and Palau. The President of the Philippines called for evacuations in several coastal provinces. However, Indonesian authorities have not reported any immediate damage so far. In northern Sulawesi, coastal communities prepared for possible waves of up to 1 metre. Fishermen carried their catch inland to save it. The quake struck the Philippines just 11 days after a 6.9 magnitude tremor that killed 74 people and damaged more than 72,000 homes in Cebu.
Bahay namin, ang kusina namin nasira. Tapos yung bubong parang hindi mo na kailangang pagkatiwalaan.
Earthquakes are a near daily threat in the Philippines, which lies on the Pacific Ring of Fire. It is a belt of intense seismic activity stretching across the region. The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center later lifted the alert, stating there was no longer a tsunami threat. However, the fear and disruption caused by this earthquake still lingers, reminding communities of the fragility of life in this seismically active region. Well, that is all that we have on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thanks again for watching.